Hey everybody, it is Econ with Dave, back with another video here. Deindustrialization in the U.S. has been a consistent, steady trend since 1950. I'm going to go ahead and put this up here. This is from the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis, showing from 47 up to 2015. With even 2 points from 1994's NAFTA start. In 2001, China's joining the WTO, the World Trade Organization. Let's get it going. Let's see what's going on. I scraped data online. Let's get this up and let's figure out what the hell's going on. All right. 1950s peak. So the total share of U.S. jobs that are manufacturing were 30%. 30% of the economy from 1950 made up the entire country in terms of workers. Okay. By 1979, it went from 30 to 22%. Now, that's not bad. Over 30 years, an 8% slide. Now, I'd rather have it be an 8% rise, but it was an 8% slide. What becomes very scary, and this is why many people feel that this has become very fucking crazy, is it went from 1979, it went from 22% in 2001 when China joined. It was at 12%, so we lost 10% over a few decades, and if trends are correct, where are we at now? 8%. The total United States jobs, okay? The United States jobs that are manufacturing are 8% of the nation. The majority of people are service-based jobs. Your barista, the guy handing you your McDonald's cheeseburger, Dave speaking to you right here, giving you a service. I'm not out here manufacturing, creating tools for mining. I'm not creating chemicals in a big factory. We're not welding. I'm not building the welding equipment. So that's crazy. Now, let's look at the data more though. So in 1950, the headcount of the employed at 30% of the entire U.S. job market was 16 million. In 1979, even though it dropped from 30% to 22%, the headcount was 19.6 million. In 2001, it was at 14.9, and today it is at 13. Someone's going to say, but David, that makes no sense. If we're losing more and more market share, then how the hell are these percentages not collapsing? Why is it not 1 million people currently in the country do manufacturing if we're looking at a 30 to an 8%? Well, it's a larger amount of the population. Population from 1950 to now has grown exponentially. It is to be expected that there will be more jobs. We have over 300 million people. And maybe, I don't know how many able-bodied adults we have currently within the economy, but if you look at the overall percentage compared to the sample size of 1950 until now, those are two separate subgroups. So that's where the data kind of looks a little more interesting. Okay, so the St. Louis chart goes ahead and shows a consistent decline in employment, the share of manufacturing. So here's the big takeaway, is a long-run technology and demand story with trade shocks amplifying specific drops alongside us. So researchers are saying the following thing, okay? The perspective. All right, I believe it is Roderick says it is a premature deindustrialization. The worldwide hump shared the path now peaks earlier and lower. Rich and many developed nations lose factory jobs far sooner. The U.S. share fell from 25% of its jobs in 1950 to 10% today, despite consistent real output. Now, the BLS, 40 years of falling unemployment, the U.S. headcount peaked at 19.6 million in June in 1979 and never recovered. Service sector's expansion offset those losses. Data table and the chart shows negative 6.7 million jobs since 1979 to 2019. Cato, the Cato Institute, the reality of American deindustrialization. Manufacturing outputs nearly hit record highs. A drop in jobs is productivity driven, not a collapse. U.S. is still number 2 globally. Note that the U.S. output ranks above Germany, Japan, and South Korea combined into one sandwich. Eat that. The ITIF rebuttal. Output states is flattened by the computer sector deflators. Many industries underperform, and the U.S. specialization is falling. It cites machinery, like the LG, 0.59 in 2020, and chemicals at 0.74, both down since 1995, meaning there are less of those sectors that are recurring within the United States, and rather they're going overseas. They're out of here. They're not going to be dealing with it anymore. So let's make sense of the decline. Technology and productivity. Factory labor productivity grew faster than the rest of the economy, so we make more with fewer people. Automation concentration Automation concentrates remaining jobs in high-skill applications. Good for output, tough for headcount, meaning that if you're the best welder and we can have this technology to get you to be even quicker, or you're good with the steel, it's not, many guys pulling and slamming the steel and getting it ready and hammering it out or whatever the hell you do with it. How the hell would I know? But we don't need that. It's the machinery now. It's the change, because these businesses, they have 100 people on staff. If I bring them technology and they can cut it by 45 to 50 people, 50% of the headcount is done, but the output is 50% higher, that's a victory for the shareholders, not a victory for you. A dual story. They don't tell dual stories. They tell half stories. They tell the half to make you mad. And say, vote for me. No one cares about you, Ohio, Pennsylvania. No one cares about you, Detroit. Insane. The demand shift to services. As income rise, customers spend proportionally less on goods, more on healthcare, education, and entertainment. Globalization and trade shocks. And WTO lowered tariff walls. The import exposure triggered the localization of job losses. The Midwest China shock. Yet trade also expands in the high-tech U.S. manufacturing niches like aerospace and medical devices. Currency and cost factors. The dollar strength in the late 80s and the late 90s hurt price competitiveness, foreign policies. Examples of China's industrial subsidies influences relative cost. The policy and investment declines. The declines sharper where states underinvest in skills and infrastructures. The IRA and the CHIPS Acts of Biden from 2022 aims to reserve some erosion in semiconductors and EV supply chains, because China wants to go to that. So the powerhouse versus the hollowed out. We're number 2 with output with 15.9% of the share. But the hollowed out argument is the output share of the U.S. slid from 25% from 1960 to 12% in 2022. Now, the powerhouse argument says we have the highest real value added per worker. But alongside the other coin, we have 6.7 million fewer jobs compared to 1979. Now, back onto the argument for it. Strong in aerospace, pharma, and machinery. But we lost a competitive advantage in furniture, basic textiles, and some electronics. Now back onto the powerhouse. The foreign direct investment shock of $2.1 trillion in U.S. plants under the Biden administration. However, on the hollowed out argument, the greenfield FDI building new plants is a much smaller share than the actual acquisitions. So the reality is, it's the same flip of the coin. The United States now specializes in capital and knowledge and tech niches. The labor-intensive, low-tech segments are no longer happening here. Because who in the motherfucking mind wants to make $8 an hour making iPhones for 12 to 13 hours a day like in China or Taiwan? You don't. I know you fucking American right here watching me right now. You don't. I know you don't. Because I never met anyone who ever wants a factory job. So where does this leave the U.S.? Well, we can accept the continued labor shrinkage unless productivity and the said productivity stalls. We can double down on advanced sectors like semiconductors, batteries, and biomanufacturing. We can buffer workers, not industries. We can have a wage insurance, portable benefits, place aid in high exposure regions. I do think that the South needs a major reinvestment in the South is going to be pretty huge. I'm not going to lie. Okay, the rest of this is just fugazi because our Congress is brain dead, so we're not going to get any of this actually done. Okay, so what are the main takeaways? These are the main distilled argument on why Trump won the election. He won the election because people felt displaced. They felt hurt. They felt that they weren't getting what was needed. And these are study points that we have to understand, because how can we get ready for 28 to go out there and take our country back if we can't even be sure about what's going on? People need jobs, but people really need the investment in themselves. I don't give a shit about your factory job. I care about if you have the ability on being the best locksmith, welder, gun maker in the world. And that's what I want people to do, is to follow their dreams, have an understanding of where to go, and to be able to create that. It's great if people have factory jobs. Some people want jobs because they don't want to have the responsibility of putting the leverage on themselves. Most businesses fail Many of them don't do very well. So of course you'd feel a little bit nervous. I completely understand where you're coming from. But at the same time, I believe in the vast majority of you want something more in your life. I want something more. Will I take a 40-hour, will I take 40 hours in a paycheck? Sure. I really prefer 32, but be able to make enough like I was working at 40. I want my 3 days off, maybe 4 days, so I can go do what I do best, and that's do the economy. I talk to all of you here and to break down what's going on so we all have a great comprehension and understanding of how we can advance ourselves forward. Because we don't want to be in poverty. I don't want to be self-reliant on a social security check. I want to be able to have my own checks. Write my own checks myself with my own name, not the government's name, my name. Now, if I happen to fall into debt-stricken poverty, well, I want that social security check. But at the end of the day, one thing is important and one thing only. This is a real data, real understanding, but people don't care about this. The data, this is the hard shit. People don't care about this. People want the dramatic. They want the guy screaming, yelling, saying, I'm going to fight for you. Those fucking assholes, they left and they abandoned you in Ohio. I want to build new industry in Ohio. Fuck the old industry. Fuck them. They left them. They could die over there for all I care. I don't give a shit. If they want to go to Mexico to go make cars, fuck them. Fuck Ford. But what we're not going to do is step backwards. We're going to step forward. We're going to focus ourselves and our energy on building up that key infrastructure in those states that need it the most. Some of you southern states are falling apart. Fucking love you guys. You're the best. I work with people all across the nation. Each and every one of you are special, with rare gifts and things that make you stronger than other people in other countries. We're the best country in the world. Everyone knows that. This is facts. No one else needs to debate that. But what I'm not going to allow is people to manipulate you all using bullshit, but rather the truth. The truth is, our country is changing, and we all need to change as well.